Well, folks, today on Rethink Real Estate, I have an absolute firecracker for you. Jonathan Harris is one of the founders of Scout Realty over in Tennessee, more specifically Nashville, but servicing the entire Tennessee marketplace. And he's one of the agents that, outside of the Harcourts network, that has taken this auction process and really, really run with it. Now, we talk about a lot of different things. First and foremost, obviously, Jonathan is a fee per sale type of agent. He has a company that does it that way, but then he's really got this ultimate plethora of different services that he can offer. He does an incredible way of articulating, and he talks about his vertically integrated model. He talks about how he's plugged auction into his market. He talks about also how he's giving sellers an ultimatum that ultimately, if they come up with their own list price, that therefore they've got to come up with an upfront fee to them and a monthly retainer. It is an absolutely fascinating episode. I look forward to a longer relationship with Jonathan on Rethink Real Estate. And then obviously in the auction department, he's somebody that has an incredibly great viewpoint of the industry. We talk about NAR. We talk about so many different things. He's a fast-paced guy. So ultimately, you need to keep up. There's no question. But again, looking forward to having Jonathan on the podcast in the future, but enjoy this episode. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Jonathan, welcome to Rethink Real Estate.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ben.
Well, mate, it's been it's funny how I'm interviewing you like as kind of a stranger, yet you and I have probably had, I don't know, upwards of 150 phone calls over the last number of weeks.
No doubt.
So I guess that the one thing that, I wanted to go into first of all is that let's do a quick little elevator pitch on yourself, your real estate company, and how you've gotten yourself to where you are in your life at the moment.
Yeah, I've been in real estate for about 22 years. My dad was a broker in the 60s, 70s, 80s. So I was born in a real estate office, and I came home from the hospital in a sold shirt. So I've just been around real estate from cradle to now. I'm 43. That being said, I started a company in 2013, and we did traditional real estate. And we've sold about $1.5 billion of real estate and sold close to 3,000 houses. And I really started to realize no matter what the market is, whether it's up or down, whether a price point is high or low, whether a seller has a great property or even a house that has a little bit more distress on it, the traditional way of selling a house always has its shortcomings, and there needs to be a better way. So I started to just think about, I wonder what other people in other countries are doing, and I wonder how they're going about selling houses. And in our mission as our company is we want to make things faster and easier and more certain for the client. And I did not feel like we were able to do that in the traditional method. And so I started just to look for alternatives, and that's how you and I came across one another.
Well, mate, I think that it's been certainly so far. It's one of those things that, I get a lot of people reach out to me all the time saying, hey, look, we're going to embrace the auction model and we're going to change the way that we do things. And, we're going to really do this. And mate, I've got to say 9 out of the 10 people never deliver. You're the 1 out of 10 that ultimately has. And, at the moment, we've got, several auction properties. We've had several others as well. And ultimately you're using this as another tool in your tool belt within your business. But I guess that the thing that I want to rewind and go back to just first of all is that, Nashville, Tennessee is where primarily you're based, but obviously servicing the entirety of Tennessee.
That's right.
I think the part of this that I wanted to sort of get a bit more of an understanding, because people don't typically just go and open their own business up. Yourself and your business partner, Mackenzie, have your own business, Scout Realty. And, at the end of the day, it's a pretty big powerhouse from a volume of business that you guys do. How did you come about to open your own business?
I was at a traditional brokerage, and I kept coming to a place to where my value exchange with the brokerage was just disproportionate for what I was paying into, for what I was receiving. And I'm happy to pay as much commission split as the value that's exchanged. Where I started to run into a problem was the brokerage itself was not creating bandwidth for me, both in human capital. So I took the business as a whole. I drew spokes around the wheel and said, okay, this is a marketing coordinator. This is a listing coordinator. This is a transaction coordinator. This is an inside sales. Here's all the different disciplines or all the different roles that we would need to be able to run a company. If I'm absorbing that as an independent contractor, why wouldn't I just build my team and start my own company? So I never really had a desire to own my own company as much as I had to solve my own problems. And I felt like, a lot of times if you're looking to create a company, solve your problems first and then look for someone who has the same problem as you do and solve their problem. So we really built a teamerage in a sense. We had salary staff that was supporting Mackenzie and I, and we started adding agents to that, and that salaried staff was supporting them so that they didn't have to go out and build their team. They already had the team mechanism put in at the company level to create efficiencies of time and efficiencies of money for them.
Well, so I guess that the part of this that I'm curious about is that you guys do. Again, you're doing quite a volume of business. Like, you guys have got more listings than, I've seen many people within your marketplace have. You've got more listing opportunities than ever. How are you getting most of those opportunities?
Oh man. Well, depending on your audience, they may love or hate this, but in 2020, there was an interesting moment in our career to where there was an elderly couple that were in their mid 80s that called me. That couple had lived in their house for about 45, 50 years. They had paid off their mortgage. They were living off Social Security, so they called our office to sell their house. And I didn't sell houses. Like that wasn't my job on the team, was to sell houses. But I took the call. A friend of mine had told them to call Jonathan, and they explained their situation to me. And their exact words were, "We can no longer afford to live in the new Nashville because the Social Security that we're receiving and then our property taxes, we can't pay it." So on the phone, I just said, "Hey, let me help you guys out. I'm just going to charge you a flat fee." I've never done that. I never thought about that. It was not an idea or concept. It just came out of my mouth. And as soon as I said that, it kind of opened up a world for me, is that if we're going to service customers, we need to have a clear and distinct value proposition. We should be able to articulate our value, whether that's the cost, the speed, the ease, the transparency, the certainty, whatever we want to communicate to the customer. It just doesn't need to be standard and traditional. I started to realize that commissions commoditize agents. And
Sure.
most often, whenever someone wants to choose a real estate agent that they represent, they choose the person that they would feel most guilty not using. Everybody knows 5 or 6 agents. So they're choosing the one with the strongest relationships, who you know, like, and trust. I just didn't really like getting selected based on the emotion of guilt or know, like, and trust. I wanted to be more valuable. And so I think that in value innovation, the goal is to reduce or eliminate cost and to raise and create value. And so we just came out in January 2020, and just started charging fee for service to all of our clients. Here's our menu. Here's our pricing. No matter what the price is, this is what we do. So with that, there was a lot of sellers who felt that the traditional real estate structure was inequitable based on traditional sales. And so when we started doing that, people just started calling. And so we have 2 different real estate companies. I mean, Scout, we've done about 3,000. The other company, we've done about 4,000. We sell statewide. So all in all, it's about 7,000 houses. Both of those models are around creating a value proposition that is clear and distinct and has a point of differentiation for listings. So because of that volume, you now have an audience that is contacting you because they've raised their hand and says, "You're solving my problem." So as we have introduced the auction method into our business, it gives us another tool in our tool belt. That's something that you and I have talked about. And so what Harcourts has been able to provide is that tool. And so not everyone values the efficiency of cost. Some people value the efficiency of time. Some people value the certainty in a transaction. Some people value the predictability, the process, the scheduling. So I think you have to caution yourself to not sell the way that you consume. You want to sell the way that your customer consumes. So whenever you give the seller a choice and you lay out their options, so the way that we have it right now is you have the option of going traditional, or you have the option of going auction. If you choose to go traditional, it's kind of like flying a kite. I don't know how the market's going to respond to this. It could be 6 months, it could be 6 days, or anywhere in between. There's a lot of potential pitfalls and things that could happen that could frustrate you. I don't feel like you should pay us a percentage of your value based on the performance of the market whenever we have nothing to do with that. The auction method, on the other hand, we are going to charge more than full percent commissions because we want to participate in the upside, and you're choosing a different method. And so our sellers have been thrilled with the auction method. Right before we came on this call, I had a call from a past client from a number of years ago who sold his house. The house that he sold several years ago was $1.5 million. He chose our $10,000 package. So he called back to sell his other house for $10,000. On the phone, I said, "What's your pricing expectation?" He goes, "You know what, man, I'm going to be realistic. We're committed to sell. Whatever the market will bear, that's what we'll sell it for." I said, "You need to go traditional, or you need to go the auction method. Forget the traditional." He goes, "Jonathan, it's funny you should say that. I just bought a piece of land by way of auction last month, and I paid 10% buyer premium. And I was happy about it because it made sense for me. Will you sell my house by way of auction?" There was no sales pitch. He
Yeah.
had already understood that transparent, competitive environments are going to yield the best price. And so whenever you have someone that comes by way of traditional fee for service, the way we have been doing it, but then they are able to ascend to something that serves their need in a deeper way, I love being able to give the customer choice and being transparent about how we do that.
No, I think that there's something to be said, mate. That again, whether you agree or you disagree with a fee for service kind of model, the reality is that I think that we look beyond that and we look at success. And ultimately, if you look at transaction count, you look at what you guys are producing, the volume of people that you are servicing. In essence, is that I've got to be honest with you. I didn't fully understand your model until now. Like again, I had a vague understanding of what you were doing, but my interaction with you from an auction perspective has been no less than any of our full price, so to speak, agents that are out there in the marketplace. It has absolutely been nothing less than that. But to be able to show diversity in your offering all the way through, you were trying to create that option or adding more tools to the tool belt from day one. Add now auction onto it, and you guys can create this plethora of options for people that ultimately provides them with the ultimate flexibility to their situation. So
Sure.
I think that needs to be one of the key takeaways that people look at from the first degree of this, regardless of whether you agree with the fee structure or not. I think that this part comes down to options, and that's where I want to segue into something, and we'll come back to auction because I really want to spend a little bit more time on that with you, because there's very few people that have gone through the depth of understanding it like you has. Most people that we operate with just simply list the property for auction because it's in a dire situation. They need to get out of that, and then they wait until they have another dire situation in order to engage us again, where you guys are adding it to a department of your business. But there's a part of this that I want to sort of just branch off to because it's got me thinking about it. The recent NAR changes,
Sure.
and the stuff that we're going to be looking down the pipeline. What's your view on all of that at this point? And the reason I say that is because I've been on this podcast before announcing that I believe that flexibility from a fee structure should be something that you present to sellers. You should take out to them and give them the options. Hey, we can go out without offering a buyer side commission, but then hey, and if we don't sell the property and it's in the first X amount of weeks or whatever it looks like, maybe we do then need to offer a buyer side compensation, because if we did a price reduction, it would be X amount. If we only offered 2% more, it'd be much less than the price reduction that we're probably going to need. And then the other opportunity is then X, Y, and Z. Like giving them more options in this situation. It happens everywhere else in the world, but for some reason, it's always been that one mandated sort of thing in the industry that it's X amount of percentage. So what's your viewpoint on the NAR settlement side of things? What do you think is going to happen, and what do you think are the changes that you're going to make in your business, if any?
Yeah. Before I tell you that my answer about that, something you said triggered about the lifetime value of the customer. So for us to attract a customer is everything. We want to have as many customers as we possibly can, and we want to have somewhere to take them. So in our business, we look at the lifetime value of the customer. It's not just like, how do we increase the transaction value, but how do we attach our title company to that? How do we attach our insurance company? How do we attach mortgage to that? So like I look back 4 or 5 years ago of all the insurance policies that we've written. We have a large group of past clients that I make money every single month from all the policies that were written. But now if you go like, I got to get my full commission. Well, hold up, what if I just go and I have an annuity long tail? What if I have ancillary services that I'm monetizing into perpetuity? So I don't try to maximize the transaction value. I try to maximize the customer value and then the lifetime value of that customer in a real tangible, not just like, oh, you're my customer for life, right? No, you actually pay me into perpetuity. So I can speak to, so whenever you talk about the NAR lawsuits, I think that the real estate community needs to start to think about how are customers going to make decisions in the future. A lot of agents I see on the message boards, they'll say things like, well, I wonder what's going to happen after this. I wonder what's going to happen to our industry. I wonder what's going to happen to our commission. I wonder what AI is going to do. I wonder what Zillow is going to do. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen, Ben. Whatever creators create the future to be, that's what it will be. So for the first time in my life, looking back at my dad's business and my business, I'm excited because it gives us a new opportunity to create a new reality of our industry that's outside of a monopolistic environment. I am so excited to create the future. So when I think about, okay, instead of wondering where is the future going to be, I want to ask, how will customers make decisions? And I think fundamentally, the quality of your answers in life or your quality of your answers in business comes down to the quality of your questions. You can ask bad questions like what's going to happen, or you can ask great questions is how will customers make informed decisions in the future? And you can almost be like Wayne Gretzky that said, skate to where the puck's going to be. Don't chase the puck, skate to where it's going to go. So when I think about the future, I actually have 8 Ps. I've kind of modeled this out for our company. What is the 8 Ps of the future of real estate? And so we call this our next generation plan. For us as a company, we want to prosper. If you're watching this podcast and you want to prosper, that's revenue growth. How do I increase my revenue? That's number one. To have revenue growth and prosper, you need property. Not like a buyer in your car, not an agent below you. No, you need to control the inventory. You need product. The next thing is to get the product. Number 3 is you're going to need to give a clear promise that is a client offering to a seller for them to say, yes, I want you to list my property. That's why I love the auction method. Like, great. We have been able to offer you a promise that you cannot find out there in the marketplace. The 4th thing is you need to have people, you need to have a team that can create a customer experience for the seller. The 5th P is process. You need to be able to have repeatable excellence, systems dependent, not people dependent. So your people are executing systems and processes. Number 6 is you need to have a platform. This is a marketplace technology, just like Harcourts has, to where people can transact on that platform. The next step is you have to have a product, and this is additional services. Just like I said, mortgage, title, insurance. We want to own that entire vertical because we think that the future is more about the home ownership business, not the real estate industry.
Do you know I've never heard a lot of people say that, like from a fee per service side of things, Jonathan, that you've actually made a very strong point at, is getting them in to like not being protective of your commission in the first degree of things. And that actually makes a very good point of things about a traditional broker. The reason that everyone is so protective over their commission, when I say everyone, most people in the real estate community are, is because they don't have a guarantee of that person coming back to them or that ancillary service that's going to keep obviously charging them along the way. So therefore, they're so set on getting that money at the beginning of the transaction. So therefore, if they miss out on it later, or it allows them to miss out on it later, it doesn't actually create this tail end of things. It's a very interesting perspective that I haven't heard explained to me that way before, and I think that that's incredible. But also being able to explain your 8 Ps, I think it's a engaging element to anybody that's recruiting. And I guess that from a Scout Realty perspective, what is the view for your business into the future, mate?
I don't think that fee for service is the end all be all, but I do feel like it's an introduction. Russell Brunson's a great marketer. I love all of his teachings, but he has a thing called the value ladder. So you have an X and a Y axis. You have value and you have cost. And what you want to do is you want to start off for your customer an introductory offer, a low, easy. Alex Ramosi would say, make them an offer so crazy that they'd feel stupid to say no. So make them an offer that takes that very first step, and then continue to ask them, would you like fries with that? Would you like to upsize? Would you like a dessert? Like, keep offering. And when the customer stops, you stop.
Right.
And so when I think about Scout in the future, I think about our value. I love fee for service. I'm a supreme fan of fee for service. It drives business through the door. And if people, that's good for them, it's good for me. And I don't look at it as like, well, I'm not going to be a discount broker. You get what you pay for. I think that's really weird narrative in the agent community, because if you say there's a discount broker or discount fees, you're actually inferring that there's a standard that's not being upheld. And you're actually admitting in a weird way that there is an antitrust issue, that there's this standard that you're deviating from. So when you use the word discount, or I'm not getting my full commission, or it's less than, well, wait, there is a standard. That's why there is a lawsuit. So when I think about the future, I want to own the product. I don't think that to focus your business on winning over buyers is necessary. What we had an auction the other day. The auction was listed traditionally for 75 days. We had 10 total showings on that property traditionally. It was a public display of failure, as you would say. We 3 price reductions, 75 days in the market, failed. We flipped it to an auction, and it was on the Monroe Street. That house. We had 81 people come through the door on that house. Of the 81 that registered, we had 6 who said that they had a real estate agent. Only 6. And I think that agents would be shocked to hear that. And it's because we didn't leave a lockbox on the door. We took for that. Don't allow someone to show the property for you. We take back to the auction model, we take full responsibility to sell the house on behalf of the seller. We are in the home to advocate for them in a transparent, competitive environment where everyone had to come at one time. We did not traditionally take the approach to abdicate our responsibility to sell to a stranger buyer's agent, to unlock the door to a stranger who frankly does not care if the house sells or not. So whenever you put your sales individual in the house to advocate and you remove the ability to have someone to abdicate to, whenever a Zillow a lead goes to an agent and they try to schedule a listing, a showing on your listing, you say, we only allow open houses. We do not have private showings. It forces that buyer to leave that Zillow agent and come to you directly you're able to make more money. You're able to sell the property to the buyer. You have a voice in the buyer's decision-making process. You get to control the process by making sure they understand the disclosures, the upfront home inspection, the lending. I mean, it is such a transformative way to sell a house. The future for us is continue to have fee for service. If the seller says that's best for me, give it to them. If the seller says, I value efficiency of time, I value certainty, I value not having my life interrupted with a bunch of showings, we have another option for you. So we want to keep stair-stepping up that ladder, but keep those low introductory offers that we can make good on to the seller.
Well, I think that there's this part of this podcast that obviously is, some people are probably sitting back here at the moment and understanding, there's one thing that's pretty constant in your journey so far, Jonathan, is that you're constantly rethinking, but also the client is at the forward-facing element of what you're trying to do,
Sure.
is trying to give them choice and trying to make sure that they're comfortable in the process. I see a lot of people that say that is the model of their business, but they definitely don't act that way when you dive into it a little bit deeper. So as far as auction is concerned for the future for you guys, is that at this point, it's part of your vertical integration of your service offering. Mm-hmm. I guess that where do you see auction fitting in for your business in the future? Because again, we're going to, by the time this podcast airs, we're probably done collectively together upwards of 20 auctions,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that where does it fit in for you guys moving forward in the integration of your growth, and how do you see it? I know you see it as another option for your client. I know you see it as another tool in your tool belt for the company, but ultimately across the wider marketplace itself, what do you think about when it comes to the future of auction in Tennessee, and then what in your model?
So if you're an agent that's listening to this, we've had to learn this the hard way. I've been doing this for 22 years. And normally whenever you list a house, you are looking at past comps to support the value of a house. And the longer I've been doing this, the more I've realized that is the stupidest way to ever arrive at value. It would be as if you were going to go to a trip to Colorado and you're telling your family to pack to go to Colorado, and you're not really sure what the weather is going to be. So you pull up to see what was the weather like 3 or 6 months ago to inform how you pack.
Let me put one to you the other day. Like, this is good. This is a great topic here, and I don't want to derail too far. I had a property in Florida. Literally just got off the phone to them as I walked in here, and the seller's mind, like literally, I had a Zoom call with them. Now it's a very cheap property. It's only $350,000, and there's 10 of these properties on the marketplace at the moment. And they're like, yeah, but one just sold for $355,000. So that means ours is worth $355,000 because ours is pretty much the same. And I said to them, hey guys, have you ever considered that the best buyer in the marketplace has just exited the market and purchased that property? So now your home is actually worth less. They genuinely looked at me like, oh shit. And it's amazing that we can do that with the comparative value of something. Like, I've got agents at the moment, Jonathan, telling me, yeah, but one in October sold for that amount of money. We are in a different marketplace than October of last year. Sorry to interrupt, but that is a really great point. Hey, what was the weather 6 to 8 months ago? And we should pack for that.
or look back a year ago. What was it a year? It doesn't matter. Last week, you're going to look in real time. What should we pack? And you know what? I just got back from Montana from a fly fishing trip. We go every year. 18 of us, there's 18 business owners. We go and have a great time, talk about business, talk about life, get out on the river and just catch fish. At least that's the goal. This year, we didn't really catch fish. You know why? Is because when we got there, it was 75 and sunny. Literally, the next morning was 31 and sideways snow. It was freezing. The temperature dropped over 40 degrees in a matter of 12 hours overnight. And it was like, we thought this could happen. We looked at our weather app. We had a choice. You can delay your trip, or you can just, it is what it is. But we have this belief system in Scout that whoever sets the price is responsible to get the results. So your question was, how do you see auctions playing in? For us, it is becoming a filter by which we understand, is this an ideal seller for us? Or do they have misaligned expectations with the market? Or do they have unrealistic expectations with us as their service provider? So whenever we start to engage with a seller and we tell them, here's what we believe, whoever sets the price is responsible to get the result. So there's three different types of people who get to set the price. Number one, you as the homeowner can set the price. Number two, you can rely upon us, the agent, to set the price. Traditionally, that's what happens, one or the other. But here's the problem is, as you said, neither one of us are writing a check. So our opinion of value does not matter. The third option is allow the market to set the price. And in the auction method, that's what we want to do, is we want to allow the market to speak. We want to allow us to listen. So as you hear this, whoever sets the price is responsible to get the result, we want to add to that, and is responsible to risk their time and their money. So if you give us a price that you want to test the market on, that's fine. It's your prerogative. You want to give us a price that you believe down the road sold for this, and that's why your house is better than. Write us a check, fee for service up front. Whoa! And we want a retainer every single month. Hold up. Yes, because you set the price. It's on you to get the result. You need to risk your time and your money. So pay us up front and pay us a monthly retainer. Literally no one goes for that option. Great. Now, are you willing to listen to us and let us set the price, and then in a price reduction schedule if we misalign with the market on a weekly basis? Or do we go to the marketplace? We literally have been firing. I say firing. We have not accepted customers. This auction has given us such a great filter going forward, and this is why it's invaluable to us. We don't waste our time with people who are misaligned with us and misaligned with the market. So whenever you tell them you're going to pay us up front, pay us a monthly retainer, if you set the price, well, I just want to test the market. I'm not risking my time against your dime. So now if you want to sell the house, the market is the best way to engage with, best way to sell it whenever you engage with it. We care most about the listing price or about the sales price. We don't care as much about the list price. The list price is the greatest marketing tool that we have available to us to attract the broadest amount of audience. When you hire us, you're hiring us to sell your property. But if we're not in the house, we can't sell your property. If you give us a shitty listing price that's outside the market, we have a few people maybe trickle in if we're lucky. We don't have a large enough sample size. So let us use the listing price as the lead magnet to drive people in the door and let me do my job to sell. Because a lot of times sellers will come back, hey, what can we do for marketing? What can we do to get more people through the door? You need to have the best, most attractive, obvious, like everyone would feel stupid to say no to this price. They're going to come to that door and let me sell them. So that's why I love the auction model. It will forever be a part of our business going forward. And most likely it will serve as either we set the price and this person was realistic, and we'll do it traditionally. They value the efficiency of cost. If they set the price, let us be your second or third agent. I'm not willing to bet my weekends on your product and your price.
Yeah, I think that the way that you've articulated that is going to be something that I think that anybody that is here should rewind a few minutes and go back and understand exactly what you've said a few times over. The way that you've broken that down from a perspective of somebody's mentality is there's a part of this, Jonathan, that I see more than what you can imagine. And well, actually, you probably could imagine it fairly well, is that a lot of the inventory that we take over is purely based on a biggest problem of an agent over-promising and under-delivering in the very beginning and not having the conversation that you just had with them up front, because at the end of the day, that relationship is fractured and the property's reputation is damaged, and the outcome will be damaged because somebody has gone into that with a whole let's just see how it goes type of mentality and without the auction process in the beginning, and it's really done harm. So, mate, congratulations on all of that. There's something that I want to end with on the podcast, though. It's a little bit less business related, but maybe it is. It's going to lead into that. Is that I usually ask our guest on here, certainly somebody that is as buttoned up as you are, you're probably going to have a few life hacks, my friend. So you've got kids, obviously, you've got a whole family life behind the scenes, and ultimately you're running a business as well. I always ask our guests about a couple of life hacks. Now, whether that be, favorite books, you mentioned a couple of marketing people on here, favorite podcasts, maybe, either way, or something from a life hack perspective that you could leave the audience with.
Yeah.
So let's start off with books, my friend. Do you have a book?
I read a lot of books. If you came to my house, you'd see a wall in the library of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. I don't even know how many books I've read, but I've been an avid reader for years. One of the guys that has really stood out to me was at the turn of the century. His name was Orson Swett Marden. He was the founder of Success Magazine. So most people know Success Magazine that we have today. His predecessor was Napoleon Hill. So people know about Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He's pretty well known. Well, the guy before him was Orson Swett Marden, and he wrote a lot of books in the early 1900s at the turn of the century around how can people get ahead in life and in business. And he has so much. You can tell that they didn't have social media. You can tell that they didn't have TV because the intentionality of their writing of people in that time frame, they just had to wrestle and think through what they were trying to convey to their listeners. It just wasn't like 250 pages of just fluff and maybe like 4 or 5 paragraphs of real. The first book I read was called Pushing to the Front. It was 770 pages by him. And every paragraph, it was like chewing on beef jerky. I was like, God, this is dense. I got to really wrestle with this. So I love Orson Swett Marden. I love Napoleon Hill. I like some of those old writers. So from a book standpoint, do yourself a favor and read Orson Swett Marden.
Beautiful. What about podcasts, mate? Do you have time to listen to some podcasts?
I listen to quite a bit of things as I'm driving to work in the mornings. I like the All In podcast. I think
that's really good, isn't it? Yeah.
They do a great job of being interdisciplined and bringing around a lot of different schools of thought. And I appreciate that they have a couple different people speaking towards a topic. So I love the All In podcast.
I love the fact that they've all got enough money that they don't give a fuck what people think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's a part of that that someone would say, oh, well, they're disconnected. Not really. They will just speak their mind and they're not disassociated. All of them are self-made individuals. So that's, again, I really enjoy their podcast.
There's nothing that they could get out of me that they don't already have.
Yeah.
So there's not a sell. I really love Tucker Carlson, the Tucker Carlson Network. I think that some of the interviews that he has and the questions that he has, you will not see on mainstream. Some people don't like him. That's totally fine. But the questions that he's able to ask to people from around the globe, some of the provocative questions that he can ask, even to American politicians, is like, wow, you would never have been able to ask that question on the news, but you can ask it on your podcast. I love Joe Rogan because he's a very similar way. He's able to ask questions and approach topics that just kind of seem left or right to mainstream. I mean, and to consider possibilities about the unknown. And I really appreciate us to not be so absolute, to be able to wrestle in things that are ambiguous and let life be more of a journey and a discovery process. And I think it was Steve Jobs that said this thing we call life was made up by people who are no smarter than you. And I think that's the case for real estate. This thing we call the real estate industry was made up by people no smarter than us. So why can we not rethink real estate? Why can we not reinvent real estate? Why can we not test and iterate and evolve into something that ultimately is going to create better solutions for our customers by the ways that meet them at a deeper level? So the commission lawsuits, I'm glad it happened. I'm so fired up. Awesome. Now we get to create the future.
Well, I think that in an ending note, I think that that's part of this that I want to compliment you on, Jonathan, is that one, you've allowed some freedom in the sense of wanting to explore auction more in the Tennessee marketplace that has given me an opportunity to sort of lean into your competency in the real estate community and your real estate efforts and go, all right, well, if Jonathan thinks we should do it this way, maybe I need to get off my high horse from a perspective of process, and maybe we do need to change things up a little bit. Maybe we do need to readdress bidding to start from in an upward direction, or maybe we need to change it more often, or things along those lines. So again, mate, to end out the podcast, thank you for your innovation and your ability to, let go and give this a good shot within your marketplace as a tool and resource.
Great. Thanks for providing the platform for me to do that. I really appreciate our partnership.
Thanks. Mate, thanks for being on Rethink Real Estate, and looking forward to many, many more successful auctions.
That's great. Thanks a lot. See you, Ben.
So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.